The Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, Professor Abraham Kithure Kindiki, the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya and President of the Supreme Court, Chief Justice Martha Koome, the Chief Justices from various countries present, the President of the East African Court of Justice, the Deputy Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu, Honorable Judges, Magistrates, Delegates present, good morning. Or is it good afternoon? It's good morning. Let me take this opportunity to welcome all of you to this particular event. And Honorable Deputy President, this is his 22nd edition of the East African Judges and Magistrates Association, and it brings together over 500 delegates drawn from 8 countries, including Uganda, Tanzania, Burundi, Somalia, South Sudan, Zanzibar, Rwanda, and Kenya. And the theme of the conference is on the multi-door approaches to justice. Without much further ado, let me invite the President of the East African Magistrates and Judges Association, Honorable Lady Justice Umugwaneza Geraldine, to come and give her speech and also launch us into this official ceremony. Welcome, Judge.
Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, ni nguzo ya jumuiya. Your Excellency Professor Abraham Kithure Kindiki, Vice President of the Republic of Kenya and the Chairperson of the Summit of the EAC Heads of State. Honorable Lady Justice Martha Koome, the Chief Justice and the President of the Supreme Court of Kenya, and the host for the 22nd IMJA Annual Conference 2025. Distinguished Chief Justices and Presidents of Courts, Deputy Chief Justices, and representatives of the Chief Justices, Honorable Judge President of the East African Court of Justice, Honorable Justices, Judges, Registrars, Magistrates, Honorable guests. Allow me also to take special recognition to His Lordship Elvin Mugeta, who is the Vice President, Regional Vice President for CIMJA. Where is His Lordship? Please wave to us. Also special recognition to CIMJA, Vice Chairperson of Gender Section, and the Gender Section Representative for East Africa, Central and Southern Africa, Lady Justice Jackie Kamau, Judge of the High Court of Kenya. Immediate past President of the East African Judges and Magistrates Association, His Lordship Eldest John Ketlima. Invited guests, all protocols observed. Good morning to you all. It is with deep honor and humility that I welcome you all to this 22nd conference. Your Excellency Vice President, allow me at the outset to extend our collective gratitude to the Republic of Kenya as a government, and in particular to the Judiciary of Kenya and the Kenya Magistrates and Judges Association for graciously hosting us here in 2025. Your hospitality and organizational excellency has provided us with a fitting environment to deliberate on matters that shape the future of justice in our region. Allow me, Your Excellency, to thank also the presidents of national associations, His Lordship Justice Mudwa, the President of KMJA, His Lordship Mutabazi Harrison, President of Lujoa, that is Rwanda, His Lady Justice Olive Kazar Wemkwaya, President of Uganda Magistrates and Judges Association, Judge Elimo Masawe, President of Tanzania Magistrates and Judges Association, Lady Justice Hassan, President of Zanzibar Magistrates and Judges Association, and to all the council members the governing council members of IMJA that have made this conference a realization. Preparation wasn't easy, but it came to a success. Thank you so much to each one of you for your role. Allow me so, Your Excellency, to say that under the leadership of Justice Mudwa, who heads the Kenya Magistrates and Judges Association, there is somebody with the IMJA's institutional memory, a calm person, a leader who headed the local organizing committee. That is Chief Lagido. Thank you, my Lord. Your Excellency, the 22nd conference is very special because we have delegations from 7 partner states out of 8 that make up East African community. We have 96 delegates from Uganda. They are headed by the Deputy Chief Justice, Honorable Dr. Flavian Zeija, Your Lordship. We have 104 delegates from Tanzania, headed by His Lordship, Elvin Mugeta. We have 34 delegates from Rwanda, headed by Lady Justice Isabella Kalihangabo, who is also representing the Honorable Chief Justice of Rwanda, my Lord. We have 200, I think there are even more, delegates from Kenya, headed by the Honorable Chief Justice, Honorable Lady Chief Justice Martha Koome. We have 2 delegates from the Republic of South Sudan, headed by the Honorable Chief Justice Benjamin Bak Deng, Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court. We have 7 delegates for the first time. This is historical. From the Federal Republic of Somalia, headed by Honorable Chief Justice, His Lordship, Honorable Bashir Yusuf Ahmed. We have the Honorable Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court of the Republic of Burundi, His Lordship Ambassador Gamliel Nkurunziza. We have 21 delegates from Zanzibar, headed by Lady Justice Hassan, President of Magistrates and Judges Association. We have 14 delegates from the East African Court of Justice and are headed by Honorable Judge President Nestor Kayobera of the East African Court of Justice. You are about 457 judicial officers gathered here. This year's conference is historical in officers gathered here. This year's conference is historical for about 4 main reasons. Reason number 1, it's the first time that our guest of honor is, I had put the head of state, but the deputy. Your Excellency, it's also not coincidental that show patrons for Kenya it tells us that there is something that Kenya, with all that should do for the region, should do for IMJA. That Kenya, with all that should do for the region, should do for IMJA. It's your season, so we are waiting on you. The participation, reason number 2, the participation shows that as the East African community membership is growing, the East African Magistrates and Judges Association membership is also growing, because now there is Burundi, there's also Somalia and there's South Sudan. Thirdly, it's the first time that we have a delegation from the Federal Republic of Somalia, Your Lordship, the Chief Justice. And I especially recognize you. This is your first time with your delegation. You're on board and you're most welcome. And it's the first time we're also having the Chief Justice of Burundi. Last minute, he couldn't come with a bigger delegation, but next time we look up to his leadership and we hope we'll be with our colleagues. And also, Your Lordship, allow me to congratulate and recognize the presence of the Chief Justice of South Sudan. I know many of you have seen him in this forum, but when we last saw him, when we were last together, I think in the meeting in Kigali, he was a senior judge of the Supreme Court. So he became a Chief Justice later this year, and so we congratulate him and welcome him. The relationship also, the first special thing about this conference is that there is a very close relationship between the IMJA top leadership and the judiciaries of Kenya, and the judiciary of Kenya's top leadership. The top leadership of Kenya is headed by females. It's an all-lady top leadership. The Chief Justice and the Deputy Chief Justice. So for IMJA, I am the president, I'm a female. You can say I'm a female, right? Where is the Vice President of our association, please? Lady Justice Lillian, thank you. So Lady Justice Lillian is from the Republic of Tanzania and is a judge of the High Court. We recognize you. Thank you, Vice President. Your Excellency, the gathering of judicial officers from across the East African community jurisdictions is not a professional assembly, but also a reaffirmation of the East African community's integration agenda. As judicial officers, we stand at the heart of this vision, ensuring the rule of law, justice, and human dignity remain the foundation upon which regional cooperation and integration are built. The EAC's goals of deepening political, economic, social, and cultural ties cannot be realized without strong, independent, and trusted judiciaries across all partner states. Over the past years, our association has worked tirelessly to foster dialogue, harmonize practices, and strengthen judicial cooperation. We have seen progress in cross-border jurisprudence, professional exchanges, and collective advocacy for judicial independence. But yet, challenges remain. The need to modernize our systems, manage growing caseloads, and safeguard public trust in our institutions. Your Excellency, these responsibilities remind us that justice is not merely a national duty, but it is a regional covenant. Your Excellency, in pursuit of this noble cause, during this 22nd IMJA Conference 2025, judicial officers shall deliberate on the theme, Justice Be Motor, Unlocking Might-Door Pathways for People-Centered Justice in East Africa. An opportunity to reflect and consider alternative justice systems, such as court-annexed mediation, restorative justice, and small court claims, with judicial cooperation, embrace innovation, and uphold integrity. Judicial officers, let us ensure that our courts remain pillars of trust, resilience, and justice, contributing meaningfully to the EAC Vision 2050 and the Sustainable Development Goals. Your Excellency and all judicial officers present here, we know for sure, divided we fall, united we stand, and that together we can build judiciaries that not only serve our nations, but also advance the EAC integration and prosperity of our entire region. May our discussions be fruitful, our bonds of fraternity be strengthened, and our commitment to justice be renewed. Thank you so much, your Professor Vice President. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Vice-Président. Asante sana, Mheshimiwa Rais. Thank you so much.
Let's give a round of applause to Madam President. Honorable delegates, if you don't leave this Congress with anything other than the demoprudence vocabulary that Judge Joel was talking about, there are two things about Kenya you must leave knowing. One, the judiciary is under very capable leadership of female judges. The Chief Justice is female, the Deputy Chief Justice is female, the Chief Registrar of the Judiciary is female. So when you see efficiency in these processes, know that that's where it's coming from. The other thing you should know is that Kenya, I think, is probably the only country in the world that has a president and a deputy president that have PhDs. And what that means is that they have a bigger burden of history, because if they don't succeed, they must succeed. If they don't succeed, it will be the biggest statement of no confidence on education since the Enlightenment age. So they have to succeed. Ladies and gentlemen, probably Madam President was about to say, it's probably the first time that IMG is also being opened by a professor of law. Now, it is my pleasure to invite the Deputy Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable Justice Philomena Mbete Mwilu, to invite the Chief Justice of the Republic, who then will invite the Chief Guest. Welcome, Judge.
Thank you. Distinguished delegates, after the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, and after our Chief Justice and visiting Chief Justices, good afternoon. Once again, welcome to Nairobi, Kenya. Huku hakuna matata. And feel at home and don't leave on Saturday. Leave the other Saturday after you've been to Masai Mara. It's a city that is the only one that has a national park within it. So please don't be in a hurry to leave. But the reason I'm here, beyond again inviting us and making us welcome in this conference, is to ask that of the Republic thereafter invites His Excellency the Deputy President, who I thought actually my President was going to say a professor of law, because really that's how we first see him before we see the Deputy President, selfishly, because he is one of us. We are here because we are lawyers. But before I call on the CJ, all of us know the reason we are here. And I hope everyone was keenly listening and following what Professor Joel Ngugi was talking to us about. And since we have another 3-4 days to digest it, let's go and digest not just what Professor said, but what all of us are going to discuss this week. And I like the way the Deputy President of Uganda put it. Those who came here and brought their system of law have now taken hours to their place and we are still stuck on. Theirs. Let that work on our minds as we go. The Honorable Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, it's your time to come and talk to us, please.
Thank you very much, my sister, the Honorable Deputy Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya and Vice President of the Supreme Court of Kenya, judicial officers, jurists, and delegates from across the East Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon. I'm Jambo. You look great from here. In fact, no one can tell who is a Kenyan, who is a Ugandan, who is a Rwandan. We all look alike. We look like brothers and sisters, and indeed that is what we are. And you all look happy, or am I right? Are you happy? Are you enjoying your stay here? Are you going to extend your stay beyond Saturday? We can facilitate you hold your court virtually so that you can sample what we have to offer here in Kenya. Allow me, on behalf of the Judiciary of Kenya, to really thank Your Excellency, the Deputy President, for coming to grace this occasion. We are grateful to His Excellency, the President, because I knew personally he really wanted to come and be with us. But please convey our gratitude to him. But we also celebrate you and welcome you as one of us. One of us who has practiced law in our corridors of justice and understand the challenges we are discussing. One of us who has taught law and molded very many students in trying to see how they can navigate this terrain. So please feel welcome. And in the same vein, I want to welcome each one of our delegates, our Chief Justices, Deputy Chief Justices, Justices, Judicial Officers, members of IMJA. Our identity for this week is East Africans. Don't care whether I'm a Kenyan, Ugandan, we are East Africans, and that's what we pass for as we participate in our 22nd edition of the East Africa Magistrates and Judges Association Annual Conference and General Meeting 2025. We in Kenya, and on behalf of the local organizing committee that I kept checking on a daily basis, and as time went by, I think I was checking on them every hour. We are honored, most honored, to host you in a gathering that continues to strengthen solidarity among our judiciaries and to reaffirm our shared calling to deliver justice, justice that is accessible to our people, justice that is meaningful, and justice that engenders trust by our people. This year's theme, Justice Beyond Brick and Mortar, Unlocking the Multi-Door Pathways for People-Centered Justice in East Africa, speaks directly to the critical moment that we find ourselves in. Your Excellency, statistics was shared here that it is only 10% of our population who can access formal justice in the formal courts. 19% cannot deal with their disputes. They have disputes, they have problems, but they die with them. 71% seek alternatives. And the question we were asking ourselves the whole of yesterday, because we had a forum of Chief Justices, is whose Chief Justices are we? Whose judges are we? Is it of the 10%? And therefore, we said yesterday, we are connectors and we are facilitators of even the 71% and the 19%. It is our business to make justice a lived reality, to make justice a common good, and to make everybody of our citizens in East Africa become a partaker of justice and a champion of justice. Does that sound good? So for many of our people, the former court system remains slow, it remains costly, it remains distant, and many times intimidating. Experiences have been shared and testimonies have been shared that even judges themselves tremble to imagine they can appear before a court. Let me say I'm one of those who also fear to appear before a court. That will send me screaming. I rarely scream, but if you tell me to appear before a court, I'll be so scared. One, I fear to lose my own agency. I like to be in control of myself and my situation. But when I'm before a magistrate, you know, they can order that I be put in the cells because I'm not talking loudly. This is not me, it's the experiences that were shared here. So, considering the justice needs of our citizens, people-centered justice has emerged not as an aspiration, but as a necessity. It calls upon us to shift our lens from judiciaries as the sole avenues of dispute resolution to widening and expanding access to justice through opening the multi-door pathways of justice that meet the diverse needs of our people. Through the work we have done in the region, and in particular here in Kenya, led by our indefatigable Professor Justice Joel Ngugi, we have come to the realization that justice is not only found in the courtrooms. Justice is found in our families, in our communities, in our marketplaces, and even in the offices where we work. And this is through the multi-door approach and pathways. So the movement toward this people-centered justice does challenge us to think not only how we deliver justice, but where, with whom, and through what means. It requires us to see justice not as a place where people go to, but as a public good that must be available in community spaces, through dialogues, through ways that enhance harmony, and through innovative mechanisms that respect culture, dignity, and agency. Your Excellency, yesterday we extrapolated this subject a lot and found that sometimes what we do, actually all the time, what we do is is decide cases. What we do as judges is decide cases. We don't resolve disputes. And this reminds us of even very complex problems that we have encountered as a society, political problems, especially determining the presidential election dispute here in Kenya. You all know we have made, I think, 4 very profound pronouncements by the Supreme Court. But what held the day was not the judicial pronouncement. It was the alternatives. And what it tells us is that nothing is impossible to resolve through dialogue, through dialogue, through people talking. So we pray next time there will be begin with the people sitting around the table and coming up with an agreement. Isn't that a good thing? Coming from this congregation, that we recommend people always begin with mediation, talking to one another, because after all, we are all citizens of our respective countries. We are citizens of our beloved Jumuiya, and we want peace within ourselves and across East Africa. So we are moving beyond the courtroom without abandoning the critical role the courts play, but realizing that we have to embrace multi-door approaches that bring justice closer to the people. NJS, court-annexed mediation, and special rights courts are transforming the justice experience for millions of our citizens in the region. These platforms enhance access to justice, restore relationships, empower communities, and help build trust in our judiciaries. And our judiciaries then become partners in addressing the daily struggles of our citizens. Kenya's justice experience under our blueprint, the social transformation through access to justice, underscores the importance of people-centered justice. We are guided by Article 159(2) of our Constitution, and we have embraced a deliberate multi-door approach to justice, where we have rolled out court-annexed mediation in 46 out of our 47 counties. We have expanded AJS to several counties, and we have established specialized courts, such as the small claims courts, children's courts, and even gender justice courts. These mechanisms have increasingly shaped the landscape of justice in our country. As we all acknowledge, this is not a Kenyan story alone. We have walked this journey as a region, and this is the story for our region, that this conference is going to deepen. Indeed, each of our countries is walking their own path towards people-centered justice, but our challenges and opportunities are strikingly similar. We have legislative challenges, because I heard this from this morning's panel discussion. We have resource constraints. We discussed this as the Chief Justice's Forum. And we have community engagement gaps and capacity limitations, especially because we have to continue printing and persuading our brothers and sisters, practicing advocates, the need for investing in the multi-door approach because of our training that is adversarial. We have also to see how this investment can be anchored in technology, and we can cascade the training on especially the principles of fair trial to every tribunal, to every ukumbi, that's what we call our community dispute resolution centers, and to every avenue, because you know the colonialists who came and declared our systems repugnant to justice and morality is because they said we have not embraced what they understood to be fair trial, respect for human rights. Now we are telling them in Kenya those are constitutional imperatives. Every tribunal dealing with AJS must embrace those constitutional imperatives of inclusivity. We must include everybody in every ukumbi. We must also observe the principles of fair trial and ensure the agreements that we enter into, everybody has been heard, it has been signed, and when they are brought to court, we have opened up our rules of procedure to allow these private agreements to become orders of the court. I think you should clap for that, because that was the missing link. Even from this morning's panel, the panelists wondered what would happen to those privately entered into mediation agreements other than the ones coming through the court and annexed mediation. We've been able to crack that in Kenya by allowing within our rules of procedure, and we are getting a lot of those agreements from the private sector, especially the banking sector. So we have a shared commitment to refine and strengthen this multi-door approach to justice across our region. And this includes supporting jurisdictions whose AJS, mediation, and specialized court systems have moved from the nascent stage, and we have something to share and learn from each other, ensuring that we work together in laying the foundations for people-centered justice. So, Your Excellency, my lords, my ladies, colleagues, as we begin this conference, I invite us all to approach each of a session with openness to learning, a willingness to interrogate our assumptions, and a shared sense of responsibility to ensure that justice becomes not only available, but truly accessible. As judges and judicial officers, we occupy a unique place in our societies because we are custodians of justice, guardians of constitutionalism, and interpreters of this social contract. Importantly, we build bridges between the law and the people, between the rights and the remedies, and between the institutions and communities. The shift towards people-centered justice demands that we adopt this broader identity with courage and imagination. It challenges us to design processes so that our justice system bends towards the realities of ordinary lives rather than requiring ordinary lives to bend towards the rigidities of our systems. And in conclusion, I want to remind us that our people will not judge our justice system just because of the number of judgments written, but also by the fairness, speed, dignity, responsiveness, and humanity of the justice that they experience. May this conference strengthen our resolve to build justice systems that respond to the needs of our people, for us to build systems that are trusted because they can reason, they can be accessible, and because they innovate and are legitimate, and they deliver justice that is felt by the people. Our deliberation in this conference will be enriching, and may our collective commitment move us further along the path of truly people-centered justice. And with these remarks, and on your behalf, dear members of IMJA and distinguished guests, allow me to invite with utmost humility our Deputy President, Professor Abraham Kithure Kindiki, our Deputy President, to deliver the official opening address. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my Lady Chief Justice Martha Koome. Please be seated. Since the days when I used to be at the university, earlier on, when I was a much younger man, I loved to speak without reference to notes. It gives you better clarity. But it will allow me at some point to make references to notes for two reasons. One, I'm before very esteemed judicial officers, judges, and magistrates. So I have to be careful what I say. Secondly, I'm representing His Excellency the President, and therefore I should also be careful what I say in that capacity. Outside that, I like exercising my mind freely, and my Lady Chief Justice and all protocols observed, I am proudly associated with the legal profession. I am not ashamed. I am proudly associated with the legal profession. And perhaps maybe when my tour of duty in this other space comes to an end, like all things do, maybe I will go back to where I started. I was impressed by what the president of the East African Magistrates and Judges Association said. Very many things about, actually, all the things he said. About the leadership of the Kenyan judiciary and the Regional Magistrates and Judges Association being female is a good thing for us in this part of the world. And the example that we see in Kenya, in this region, of affirming the leadership of women is a good thing. And I think we are providing leadership that should be emulated by other parts of the world. I know some countries like Rwanda have done better than Kenya, especially in political representation of women. Uganda, I think, also has done better than Kenya. But generally, as a region, we have good things to say about ourselves. And I am saying so because even in older, much older democracies, some of the fasts that we have registered have not happened. They have not happened. The number of women in the judiciary, the legislature, in the executive at high level. I think Africa, East Africa, we are not doing badly. We are doing well. Of course, she said a few other things, which I don't want to repeat. But I was impressed that our brothers and sisters from the region who are here are happy to be here, as it should be, because this is your home, just as your own country is also the home for your brothers and sisters from Kenya. So, because, Madam President, you said so many good things, the politician in me urges me to say that whatever you and this forum asks for, we will give you. I am delighted to join you here at the 2025 East African Magistrates and Judges Association Conference, a gathering that brings together the region's judicial minds and justice reform champions. This annual regional forum is a collective reaffirmation of our shared conviction that justice is the lifeblood of both national development and regional integration. This year's theme, Justice Beyond Brick and Mortar, Unlocking Multi-Door Pathways for People-Centered Justice in East Africa, reflects a powerful and timely shift in thinking about justice reforms, that justice must evolve, expand, and adapt if it is to meet the needs of our citizens in an era defined by rapid economic change, demographic transformation, and the deepening of regional ties. Across East Africa, too many of our people still experience formal courts as distant, slow, costly, or intimidating spaces. Even the Chief Justice has admitted here that we are all intimidated. Even those of us who are lawyers and judges, the courtroom disorients us. How much so for the citizen who is pursuing some issue and they are from a corner there and this is their first experience before a judge or a magistrate. For millions, especially women, youth, small entrepreneurs, and rural communities, the justice system appears more like a fortress than a support structure. The consequences are profound. Disputes linger unresolved, economic opportunities are stifled, social tensions simmer, and public trust in state institutions weaken. When justice is inaccessible, development stalls, inequality widens, and the promise of the rule of law becomes hollow. Our judicial systems must therefore function not as barriers, but as open doorways through which fairness, dignity, and economic opportunity can flow to every corner of our region. It is in response to these realities that our judiciaries have increasingly embraced multi-door approaches to justice. Mechanisms such as the alternative justice systems, AJS, court annexed mediation, small claims courts, and restorative justice processes reflect a growing recognition that justice cannot be confined to stone buildings or rigid procedures. It must instead travel to where the people live, work, trade, and build families. These pathways offer quicker, more affordable, and culturally informed avenues for resolving disputes, enabling justice systems to adapt to the lived experiences of our diverse populations. They reaffirm the basic truth, which is justice must not only be done, but must be felt by our citizens as accessible, humane, and relevant. The developmental imperative for scaling these multi-door pathways is clear. A functioning justice system is the operating system of any economy. When disputes resolution is slow and unpredictable, it weakens the legal foundations of commerce. It freezes capital and undermines property rights. The Kenyan experience illustrates the reality vividly. In the 2024-2025 financial year, 621,425 cases were filed, and our courts resolved an impressive 647,686, achieving a 104% case clearance rate. However, these achievements occurred against a backdrop of 601,490 pending matters at the end of the financial year, which With just about 700 judges and magistrates serving a nation of more than 55 million people, the average case can take 3 to 5 years to conclude, far beyond the statutory timelines and public expectations. This pattern is not unique to Kenya. It is mirrored across the East African region, where rising population, increasing commercial activity, and limited judicial capacity combine to create structural. Behind these statistics and livelihoods hang in the balance. A commercial dispute unresolved for years equates to capital frozen in litigation rather than circulating in the economy to create jobs and support innovation. A delayed land case denies a farmer credit, security, or inheritance stability. A prolonged family matter leaves women and children in agonizing uncertainty. In aggregate, this represents a silent tax on development, one disproportionately borne by the very groups our development agenda seeks to uplift. It is precisely, colleagues, this human cost that multi-door justice seeks to address by providing simpler, faster, and more accessible mechanisms that free up economic potential and restore confidence in the rule of law. Beyond our national borders, multi-door justice is central to the East African community's integration agenda. Investors and cross-border traders do not only assess market prospects, they evaluate their reliability, predictability, and timelines of judicial enforcement. A harmonized regional framework for mediation, small claims, and cross-border dispute resolution would create a seamless commercial environment across East Africa's 300 million consumers. Picture this: a situation where a manufacturer in Kigali contracts with a distributor in Nairobi with confidence, or a trader transporting perishable goods through Busia knows that any dispute can be resolved within weeks through enforceable regional mediation. This is the legal infrastructure necessary to support the free movement of goods, services, and labor, the backbone of our common market protocol. Yet, the impact of multi-door justice goes beyond economics. At the societal level, these mechanisms strengthen the social contract by making the state visible, accessible, and humane. Alternative justice systems forums that integrate human rights safeguards in our communal and traditional systems of dispute resolution offer women excluded from inheritance pathways to reclaim their dignity and property. Community mediation provides young people with alternatives to violence or informal retaliation for grievances. Mobile courts and paralegal networks bring constitutional protection to remote rural communities, ensuring that justice is not a privilege of geography. These interventions are particularly essential as part of our peace-building initiative within this region. The transition toward people-centered justice also aligns with our global commitments, particularly Sustainable Development Goal number 16, which calls on us to build peaceful, inclusive societies anchored in effective, accountable, and accessible institutions. Without fair and timely dispute resolution, progress on the other SDGs, whether in health, education, gender, equality, or poverty reduction, remains fragile. It is for this reason that it is often recognized that justice is the bedrock upon which all the other social and economic gains rest. At the same time, as we expand these alternative pathways, we must also uphold safeguards to ensure that expediency never substitutes for fairness. Gender-sensitive guidelines, human rights protections, appellate pathways, and constitutional guardrails must form the backbone of all multi-door justice initiatives. For this transformative agenda to take root, we must move deliberately from innovation to institutionalization. Pilots, however successful, remain limited to reach unless they are embedded into law practice and judicial training, budgeting processes, and administrative culture. Our governments and judiciaries ought to establish dedicated funding streams to these initiatives as a demonstration of our determination to give these pathways a permanent home within the justice system. This will be a mission of our sovereign commitment to our people as East African nations that we are determined to strengthen justice as a public good. Kenya stands ready to work hand in hand with all judiciaries across the region to bring these commitments to life. We firmly believe that hard working together, harnessing and sharing our experiences, we can build judicial systems that listen to our citizens, represent their dignity, and deliver justice fairly and expeditiously. Ultimately, the future we envision for East Africa is not only about expanding markets, building highways, or deepening intergovernmental relations. It's about cultivating shared values anchored in fairness, dignity, and institutional integrity. Justice is the glue that binds societies and the foundation on which peaceful, prosperous, and united communities are built. By embracing multi-law justice, we transform our judiciaries from bottlenecks into accelerators of progress, from distant arbiters into community partners, and from symbols of exclusion into instruments of inclusion. This is the justice that traders need to advance commerce, that women need to secure equality, that youth need to imagine peaceful futures, and that our region needs to realize the aspirations of shared prosperity. This is the development dividend. It is within our reach, and it will be achieved if we turn the outcome of this year's conference into a decisive regional action. Demystify the justice system and make it accessible and acceptable to as many citizens of these pathways. We should not compromise on fairness and other fundamentals, including the quality of justice delivered even through those alternative processes. Thirdly, is that through judicial decision-making process and judicial dispute resolution processes, we must carry the national interests with us. And I think that's what Chief Justice Martha Koome was trying to illustrate. It is not enough to make a decision. That decision must help carry the sustainability of the nation alone. Because a decision can help or even undo in terms of preserving the continuity of the nation. And therefore, I think judges, magistrates, judicial officers occupy the driver's seat in providing the software that runs nations. You can build roads, connect people with electricity, build airports like we want to do, because we have realized we are doing well in many things, but we don't have a good airport. So in the next 2 months, we are starting to build a modern airport, because the one that exists there was built by our forefathers. Next time you come in Nairobi, you'll find something different. So, but you can do all that, but all that infrastructure, including the expressways, can be undermined by the fragility that comes with certain national interests being overstretched. So things like national security, things like national cohesion, and I dare say things like justice and fairness may not be infrastructure, but they are good software upon which the foundation of our respective nations is built. So as a judicial officer, you are expected therefore to contextualize your decision in the manner and style of incorporating national interest, so to speak. And therefore, because today is not my day, let me wish you well as you interpret your very, very, very central mandate in the survival of our countries. Please help us to sustain our nations. And I think the inherent quest for any people, for any society, is survival and sustainability. And from where I sit, many nations today are struggling with survival and sustainability. They are not sure that 50, 100, 200 years, the society will still be there and moving on. And that's where the struggle is, and that's where the anxiety, the insecurity is coming from. And lastly, even as we contextualize this national interest, we must also zero in to what is it at the individual level that provides either security or insecurity of the human being. Because, in my view, what we all aspire for is freedom from fear that someone or other interests, and freedom from want. I have challenged colleagues in the legal profession, including judges, that we've come a long way and we've made huge progress in asserting the place of human liberty. We've come a long way in asserting the place of women. If you compare where East Africa and Africa is today and 30 years ago, we have made good progress in terms of asserting the place of women, creating equality, and protecting vulnerable sections of our society. But only insofar as these groups and individuals are protected from harm. Trying to provide security from them so that they don't fear for their lives and well-being. Where we have not done much is to assert the place of individuals, communities, to be free from want. And therefore, as you look at your Bill of Rights, just look at it again. As you look at the constitution of your country, you find we've concentrated a lot on the liberties that give the autonomy of the individual in terms of expressing themselves and associating and moving from one place to another. But I challenge you to consider that equally important, especially for Africa and the developing world, is the need to liberate the individual from the insecurities around poverty. And therefore, socioeconomic empowerment should go hand in hand with civil, political, and democratic empowerment. And lastly, Africa, East Africa, and Kenya is no exception, still suffers from identity issues. And we are yet to canvass and aggregate our interests as individuals, communities, and nations to other equally important things than just identity. There's community, there's religion. And many of the African countries, and I'm not naming any, that are not doing so well as they should be doing is because of the pullback by issues around identity. I want to challenge you as thought leaders and the conveyors of justice to start helping us in your decisions, in your philosophy, in your lawmaking and interpretation process on how we can balance these very difficult issues around identity with equally more important priorities like interests. In other words, an average African citizen, what is more important? Is it the language they speak, the mother tongue they speak, or is it the life-sustaining prosperity issues that we should embrace to empower that person? In other words, many of our countries are struggling because of these issues around identity, ethnic, religious. And we've spent a lot of time trying to defeat those vices, and we should continue. But equally important, as judges, magistrates, thought leaders, help us to start canvassing how we can create new identities, not around ethnicity and religion and language, but we can create new identities around interests. Ask yourself, what is the common problem of a citizen in Kenya, Rwanda, Burundi, Somalia? It is the survival of that person and economic interests. And therefore, you will discover, for example, a citizen in Tanzania has a greater interest in customers in Burundi who buy what they have than the immediate neighbor who has the same products that they produce. I'm just giving that hypothetically. But the point is, your neighbor and your best ally as you look for empowerment as an individual, as a citizen, is not the person who speaks your language next door, who produces the same bananas that you grow in your farm. It is the person who buys that banana in the next community, in the next country. And so this idea around creating a good market in this region, judges and magistrates should help us form new identities. We have lived for a long time worshiping the identities we inherited, and the borders, we can create new ones. And I think we are almost there, because I've heard here, we've sung the East African anthem, we've also sung, I've also seen the flag, the East African flag, and these are some of the things that create new communities. You may want to read a book as I end by Benedict Anderson. The book is called Imagined Societies. And the core argument in that book is that societies are abstract entities. They are imagined. Communities and societies are actually abstract. What we call our nations today have existed because of a number of things. The first symbol is the map. That map is what describes your country. From here, this coordinate to the other, and everybody inside that space feels they belong there. But it's just coordinates, geography. The next symbol is the flag. You have one flag. You live in the same geographically defined area. You have one anthem. Without some of this, that identity will not be there. So the argument is, as we struggle with East African integration issues and creating a new identity as East Africans and possibly as Africans through initiatives like the African Continental Free Trade Area and others, the things that the founders of our countries had foreseen, but we've been unable to unlock that potential. Judges and magistrates as thought leaders should help us create new identities. And even before we go to Africa as a whole, let us create a new identity for East African community. I like what Chief Justice Koome said, that looking at the audience, nobody will imagine that the people, the distinguished dignitaries standing or sitting in front of me, nobody will imagine that they come from different countries. They look alike, they are sitting alike, they are wearing alike, isn't it? So some of these things are imaginary, and therefore judges and magistrates, good luck, and do more of these things. This is an annual meeting. I don't know whether it should also take the form of a colloquium, so that you don't just have the national colloquia, you also have colloquia. You also have a regional colloquium where people can think through some of these things and try and create new identities and define new thinking that can be implemented by policymakers and define a new Africa, a new East African community. Thank you very much. God bless you with those many remarks. It is now my pleasure and privilege and singular honor to declare the 2025 East Africa Magistrates and Judges Conference officially open on behalf of President Ruto. Thank you very much and God bless you.